Hey, welcome back to Paint the Kitchen Red. If you've been to New Orleans, I'm sure you've tried shrimp or crawfish étouffée. It is such a delicious dish, and I have figured out how to make it in the Instant Pot. I make it with shrimp mainly because that's what I have available in my grocery store, and my family loves this recipe and we eat it with rice. You may also want to check out some of my other videos. I have a jambalaya recipe that's a real crowd pleaser. And I also have a gumbo recipe, and it's pretty amazing too. So stay tuned for the ingredients and how to make this delicious New Orleans favorite étouffée. This is what you're going to need for the recipe. 1 cup of diced bell peppers, 1 cup of diced onion, 1 cup of diced celery, 2 cups of seafood stock, and I actually have a recipe for this on my blog, and I'll put a link to it in the notes. And if you don't have seafood stock or shrimp stock, you can just use chicken stock. 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 tablespoon of Creole seasoning, divided, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1/4 cup of chopped parsley, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and that's optional because your Creole seasoning is going to have salt in it, so you want to just add as needed. 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme, 2 tablespoons of thinly sliced green onions. They're going to be used for garnishing the étouffée, and you can use the white parts. You can throw them in with the onions when you're sautéing them at the beginning of the recipe. You'll also need 2 pounds of peeled and deveined shrimp, and it should be thawed and dried, 4 tablespoons of butter, 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of sherry. This is optional. This is to finish. It just gives it a nice flavor at the end, but you can omit it if you want to. 1 cup of tomatoes chopped, 1 tablespoon of tomato puree, and that's optional if you want to add it and make it a little more tomatoey, which some people like. So the first thing we're going to do is season the shrimp. Add 1 teaspoon of the Creole seasoning to the shrimp. Make sure the shrimp has been thawed completely and dried. I use a paper towel or a bunch of paper towels to dry the shrimp. And that'll make sure that the spices really absorb into the shrimp. While the shrimp is marinating, you heat the Instant Pot, and once it's hot, add butter and flour. And what we're doing here is we're making something called roux, spelled R-O-U-X, and it's a French word. And roux is used as a base for a lot of recipes, including Cajun and Creole recipes. Some recipes, like my gumbo, call for the roux to be really dark, but not burnt. It's very important to keep stirring and take it off the heat as soon as it reaches a dark color. In this case, we're going to make it a little lighter than we would for the gumbo. If you find that it's burning, take the inner pot out of the base unit and let it cool down a little bit, and you can even lower your sauté temperature. Now it's time to add the holy trinity of Cajun cooking, which is onions, peppers, celery to the roux, and stir everything together. Once the vegetables are coated, you can add the garlic and stir it into the mixture until it loses its rawness. If you find things sticking to the bottom, then you need to deglaze with a little bit of water or broth. Add the Creole seasoning, the white pepper, thyme, and black pepper. You can add the salt if you're choosing to use it. As I mentioned earlier, the Creole seasoning has salt in it, so if you're sensitive to salt, you may want to just omit it. Now add the broth. You can use shrimp stock, seafood stock, or chicken broth. Stir it all up and make sure there's nothing stuck to the bottom. It's very important to avoid the burn message. Add the Worcestershire sauce, lemon juice, tomatoes, and you can add tomato puree if you want it to be more tomatoey. Now we're going to close the lid and pressure cook on high pressure for 10 minutes. Once the time is up, do a 10-minute natural release, which means you would wait for 10 minutes after the pressure cooking is done and release the pressure manually. Immediately open the lid and add the shrimp. What we're going to do is cook the shrimp in the residual heat in the Instant Pot. So we're not pressure cooking. You're just going to put the shrimp into the liquid, close the lid, and let it sit for 10 minutes. If you have any trouble closing the lid, put the lid into venting position and close the lid and then put it back into sealing position. After 10 minutes, open the lid and the shrimp should be cooked perfectly. Before serving, garnish the shrimp etouffee with parsley and green onions. I like to serve it over rice. This recipe is delicious and it's really comforting. I hope you enjoy it. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I hope you subscribe. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.